We must believe that things end, things end at the right time. Things end in due time. This time, it will be my time, yeah. In due time, in my time. I'm so glad that it's my time. Yo, it is way, way too early in the morning, but I am up. And I'm gonna be honest, I've been up since yesterday. But it's okay. I don't know. I guess sometimes I just don't get tired, but I think I stimulate my mind a little bit too much sometimes, and that just feeds some kind of I don't know. It just don't get me to the place where I need to rest. I don't know. Anyway, what is up, you guys? Welcome to the BIYG podcast. I am your host, Stefan Simmons. Believe in your growth. Um, let's just talk about some things because one thing that is definitely on my mind, and I kind of want to just get it out. I don't want to hoard things. Um, I think there's just a certain level of hostility. Uh, when and I mean, well, I mean, I don't know when the people I interact with face to face, I don't see that hostility, but it is very much so prevalent and apparent in online spaces. Um, I mean, I could give examples, but I'm really not trying to do that. I think it's like either take my word for it or don't. Well, you know what? Let me give this one. I was in a some live, a TikTok live, and a viewer asked a streamer, what their favorite pizza was, and the person said pepperoni, and then they began to list off other types of pizzas. Now, I love pizza. I mean, granted, I think I'm very basic when it comes to it, but I love meat lovers pizza, and you know, with the thing with a lot of internet spaces or even texting and chatting, things of that nature, it's hard to really, I guess, receive tone because there is a tone, but it's words and words that are not, there's no sound behind it. You can't really give character. You can, but you might make yourself look foolish, but majority of the time you're going to be projecting unless I mean, I don't know, there's certain situations where it just comes off the way it is, but then there's situations I think like this where it could be an innuendo, it could be something underlying, or maybe it's just we're overly freaked out, we're overly perverted, or we're overly being weird, right? And so regardless, I said meat lovers, and I put an emoji. There's certain emojis that I use, and there's really nothing behind it for me. Like, I'll use the there's a closing eye looking to the side smiling emoji. I use that all the time for no reason. And even there's a person who began to recognize me because of that emoji, and it was just like when I come in, it's just like, it's like a, you know, it's like the sassy look to the side, and I don't know, there was nothing about it. It was just something I did, but with this meat lovers pizza, I put behind it. There's an emoji where you have a person, like you have the two hands covering your face, and then you are peeking through, I think, one of the hands, and so I think that is the emoji that I used after that. But either way, the person then they said, "Don't make it weird, N word." And so now, I'm not gonna get too deep into the whole N word thing, but even still, that was just very to me aggressive because yikes, you know, it's a big assumption because I I don't even wanna get into all of that, but I'm just that's my example, and I have plenty others where it's like people are just kinda on the fence and, like, very hostile and, like, defensive. I just don't get it. I don't understand it. Um, literally, I don't know. It just feels as if though I get there's a lot going on in the world and people got things going on in their life. And when you're meeting stranger, stranger danger, and people have alternative motives. And especially, again, when you're dealing in online spaces or lives and stuff like that, you have trolls. And so people are just defensive. And I guess, it's not that it's just they don't have a right to be, but they kind of don't at the same time. It's like you have to give everybody, well, you don't have to, but I think it's appropriate to give every person a clean slate and not take your experiences and portray them onto everyone. Not saying that you shouldn't take your experiences and learn from them, but I do think that each individual should have a new slate, have a clean slate. And it's like, show me who you are. But then also, it's kind of like, I want to understand how to say this because I can know. I'm trying to think because I don't know if it's going to come out right. I just feel like don't lose your history, but don't let your history, I guess, dictate your future. I don't I don't know how to say this because mm, I'm not saying that, let's say you had someone who was a thief in the past, right? Um don't go around not trusting other people to not pay you back, or don't go around not trusting other people. It's like staying pure. And I guess we go back to that purity thing, but staying pure, like, yes, you can know that there are evil, mean, hateful, wretched people in the world, but then know that they are there, but then also know, and you can decide do whatever you want to do, but know that there are also good people, people who are putting in the effort, people who are trying, people who are making mistakes, and they're not intentionally doing things because that's not a mistake, right? Um, but I mean, I think you can hold space for two truths, right? There are some, I, I mean, horrific individuals in this life, and there are those who made mistakes and can make a mistake. And I'm very big on that. Like, I believe people can change. That goes down a whole different path of conversation that I don't want to go down, but I do genuinely believe that people can change. But I'm very big on discernment. And I don't think, honestly, a lot of people understand what discernment is. All discernment is an evaluation. It is a monitoring of patterns, habits, and collecting data and coming to a educated, not just, well, it for the most part it is a guess. It's a hypothesis, I think. Is it a hypothesis? I don't know. Educated guess. But then at some point, like, let's say there's the educated guess side of it aspect, and then there's the, if it quack like a duck, walk like a duck, talk like a duck, got feathers like a duck, look like a duck, it might be a duck. Now it could be, a wolf in duck clothing, right? But when all of the data, the patterns, and all of this stuff feeds into something, somebody, you don't have to lie to me 100 times for me to know that you're a liar, right? Um, After situations start to line up and it's like, okay, you said this and it didn't happen. All right, maybe, that sometimes it happens, sometimes plans fall apart, so not gonna judge you there. But let's say you said you did this thing and come to find out you didn't. All right, now that was a little bit more, um I wouldn't say malicious, but that one you're kind of intentionally trying to mislead, or just misinform, whatever the case might be. Now that to me is a little bit more intentional. But I think, even, and this goes off topic a little bit more, but a while back, I don't know where I came to this conclusion, but there are liars, I think, manipulators and deceivers. A liar is at the bottom of that list. That's the least dangerous form of a liar. A manipulator, most of the time they're born liars. Most of the time they will lie to get what they want, to get you to do what what they want. It's all about them in a way, or whatever, to get a certain outcome. And most of the time a lie is in their arsenal. But then you have a deceiver. A deceiver is, it's not just about it. I guess it is about them, but really it's not even, I don't know. Now that's where it comes to misleading a person, um and intentionally doing it for harm. Um I don't know. And I could be, I wish I had a clearer picture to paint in regards to that, but that's just something that I don't know. I began to realize there's levels to it. And I don't know. I really don't like liars to begin with. I'm not saying that I've never told a lie. I try my best not to. But again, I think there's a difference between, how would you say it? Um, like, okay. Well, no, I'm not gonna go into that. Let's pivot a little bit. But yes, I feel like it's hostile. It's unnecessarily hostile these days. And again, I understand, um, people having a lack of trust, but life is so good. And I mean, just because I may have my warped vision and I don't flood myself with news about what's going on, I want to be more focused in what I can do than what I cannot do. That doesn't mean that I don't go vote. That doesn't mean that I don't help, my neighbor or someone that may be in trouble, or that I'm not aware of what's going on, within my country or my city or state. But at the end of the day, I think too many people are worried about someone else taking care of them, or someone else. And granted, our government should protect us, but at the end of the day, even if they failed, do you know how to do something for yourself? Do you know how to have something when all else fails? I'm talking about, not, there's no white, black, or whatever, and I'm not saying that we don't have racial inequality and there's not things happening. That stuff is there. But even with that stuff, do you know how to do something for yourself? That I don't know. That's super important to me. I can't stand dealing with people who, it's like they're not really I wouldn't say solution oriented, but I don't want to sit here and complain about things and not be part of the solution, you know? And like, this is one thing for me. I deal with my garden, and so granted, it may not be the largest um thing right now, but eventually it will be, right? And so, granted, with the investments that are going to come in, that will help me to build a greater infrastructure and a bigger project. And so, with that, let's say not having people want stuff for free would be so beneficial, because let's say there is a time where now I am a source of food security. Because of the investments that came from the community, we are now able to have more, because people weren't so busy trying to get over on someone trying to do something great and trying to actually do something helpful and valuable, beyond entertainment. Because when you're no longer laughing, you still gonna need to eat. Now, granted, a life of no laughter is not a good thing, but when a lot of these things fail, I mean, you want the basics. You're gonna want the basics, but that's another conversation. Hostility, child. I probably won't stay there too long, because there's another thing I kind of want to talk about, but I just wanted to brush over that or mention it, because I don't understand it. I don't like it. I I'm seeing it often, and it's like, I guess it's bothering me, because you're having people who are establishing these communities. They're, I don't know what you would say, but they're gaining these people who have a lust for them. They have a desire for them. And it's like you're supposed to be a leader. You are supposed to be a leader. And I'm just, you know, venting, but kind of like trying to help us understand, or I don't know. You're going to have a space that you curated, that you invited people into, quote unquote, safe space, but it's not safe for everybody. Okay. You got to work on that. Um, and don't get me wrong. Like if you're I wouldn't expect a football player to feel quote unquote safe in a gaming community. Now, unless that football player played games, but obviously I'm not talking about that nuance. I'm just saying like there is a space for everyone, right? A book club, there wouldn't be, I mean, you can be there, but you might be the oddball out if you are a I'm just trying to think. You're something that's not that, right? But that's not what I'm talking about. I think it's like I had to give another example. I went into a community and, they were watching a movie. And so, it was in an open room. And so they were watching Bruce Almighty. I don't know which one it was. I don't remember how many Bruce Almighties there are, but they're watching Bruce Almighty. And so I just went in and watched. And the very first thing I was met with was hostility and disrespect. And I am so over disrespect these days. I don't know. It's beneath me. I'm aggravated by it 100%. But I mean, yeah, like the girl, it was a girl, which I think sadly to say this, it just makes it more distasteful when it is a woman. And that's not to say that anything bad about women or anything bad about men. It's just distasteful because to me, disrespect is disgusting, whether it comes from a male or a woman. But I don't know, especially when it comes from a woman, it's just like ill, and maybe this is my bias because I feel like there's already a lot of grace for a lot of women, and I'm not saying that men don't get away with a lot of things, but I think there's already a lot of grace depending on where you come from, depending on your culture, but there's already a lot of grace for women. And so to act like that, I don't know, it's a big turn off because it's like again, depending on where you come from, you get a lot handed to you and you got a lot of people willing to go to bat for you. And so acting like that is disgusting. Someone coming into a room and you saying, "Who the F is this?" And excuse, even if portraying it that way is vulgar, I'm sorry. But, you know, that I most of the time I was even just thinking about this, but when I enter into spaces, I don't speak. And I know that may be odd because in the South, I guess when you walk into a room, you speak. But that may not just simply be a Southern thing, that just may be common courtesy. Um, but oftentimes, majority in online spaces, when I come into a room, especially if there's new people, I will be very quiet. Um, Maybe I'm mystical that way, but like I have to monitor, and it's just kind of like built into me. I know a lot of people they force it, but I don't know. There's a part of me I have to watch people. I have to listen to people. I have to see what kind of space I'm in. And again, going back to it, the very first thing when I dropped into, because I see they're watching a movie, is like, who the F is this? And then, I'm very quiet, so I'm able to hear um how she's responding, how the leader is handling it, and he's handling it very poorly. I mean, he's trying to laugh it off, rather than either telling me that I can stay or that I'm sorry, but this moment was private and I didn't mean to allude or mislead. He didn't take leadership. It was very much so, I'd hate to call him a coward, but I feel like a lot of people they put themselves in leadership roles and they're not leaders. They have communities and they don't have what it takes to run or facilitate communities because you cannot, I mean, you can be biased, you can do whatever you want to do, but being biased as a leader or as someone who is the head of a community is is not cute. It's not, it's just not the way a thing should go. And so, in the end, I ended up, I think after she said another thing, I muted completely. I hard muted because one, I'm not going to let anyone disrespect me. I'm not going to let a woman disrespect me because if I can't call you all these things that you are at this point without a man getting mad, that's what angers me. Cause again, that goes back to the grace of it. Like, that's a whole nother conversation. But God knows how I feel about that. I just think there's too much grace for especially today's women. Like, you don't act modest, you don't act soft, you don't act like this, and then someone like me who is, I'm a man, but I'm still more graceful than you, and I have to be this. I have to tolerate this, and I have to, like, I just get aggravated by that. I get aggravated by it because I know when God looks at me, I'm the apple of his eye. And so it's like, but to the world, I'm supposed to be a mud puddle or something. Like, what? What do you mean? But that's off point. I'm just going into these spaces, and again, there's ways to communicate. There's ways to respectfully say something, set up a boundary, right? If it was a private moment, all again, someone had to do was say, "Oh, I did not know that this was open. Oh, I thought this was for us." It didn't have to be a vulgar term. It didn't have to be this aggression directed toward me. And then lo and behold, after I muted the person, according to some of the remarks and the responses that the leader were giving as I was listening, they were still, it was the main girl and then another girl, but I guess they were antagonizing me. But how I'm set up, I'm gonna protect my spirit always, you know. Um, and so even as that was happening, I didn't realize it, but I guess they thought that I could hear it. And so I just informed them, like, from the very moment that you said, "Who the F is this?" I muted you. And I mean, I don't even know, but I think it was just the way these moments are handled because I look at everyone in the situation. I do. And that's why I like coming in things quiet because I like to watch every single person. I'm not going to fight you. I feel like even opening my mouth in some moments, it gives too much energy and it gives too much power. And that's why I'm just like, I'm going to be poised. I'm going to be graceful. I'm a man and I respect me. I love me. I don't have to fight. I don't have to argue. I don't have to yell. I don't have to defend myself. You know, I can sit in my rightful place knowing that, you know, I am protected. I am loved. I am seen. I am heard. I am worthy. I am celebrated. I am honored. And so that right there is just, I'm not degrading myself, stooping to a level of trash, least to say the least. Um and I just don't understand because there's the hostility where people are on edge because of the culture of being online. Then there's the hostility where people feel threatened or they feel insecure, and so they are the problem. They are the problem rather than they've experienced people who create tension. They are the tension. They are trying to isolate. They are trying to taint and ruin um community because of selfishness or whatever motive they have or whatever intention it is, because I think there's always a way to say things. There's always a way to communicate your point and express how you feel without being vulgar. I mean, if you cuss, you cuss. That's you, right? But I just feel like you don't have to be a child not to cuss, right? I think you can be very eloquent and very concise, very beautiful in word speech, very intelligent and not I don't know. I don't know. And I mean you can do all you can be that and still use vulgar language. I just don't understand it. I just don't understand it cuz it does not instigate, but escalate. It escalates things to me when someone cusses. I don't know because there's already such a dark energy behind it and it's like you want to use that word really? But I don't know. I don't rambled on that for a little while now. I want us to love each other. That really is, something that I desire because it's crazy. I mean, some new person, random person comes in, I don't know. Some people they are high on their own stench. And it's like, I don't know. But then I always look at the leadership because what leaders allow, that speaks very highly to I can sit there and definitely not hold someone accountable for someone else's behavior, but the behavior that you allow to manifest and that you allow to reside and remain in a space, I think that does speak to the kind of person that you are as a leader. And even off of leadership, what is in your heart, because you're protecting darkness. And that to me can't fly. Like, why would I want to stay in a place like that? I left that server. I mean, as soon as they went to a private call and there was no, I'm sorry, uh, excuse them for now. Granted, the leader was trying to, but well, the leader was trying to, um, I guess, console me in a way where it was like, don't listen to what they're saying, yada yada yada. But again, like I said, I couldn't hear anything they were saying, and so I guess to be bullied, for the leader to be bullied like that, and to the point where he had to take them to a private call, to me, it's like, I don't know. We need some leadership training. Like people, I don't get it. Maybe I'm misunderstanding something, but I don't understand that. But again, it's more so about the hostility and less leadership or whatever. But man, next thing. Oh, brother, because I was at Bible study and you know, there was a demonstration that was taking place. And it's funny because I was talking about in a recent episode, the banana pepper plant that came up on its own, and there was a prompt that was being presented. Then in this demonstration, the speaker presenter needed three examples or three volunteers, and so because there was a slow response for volunteers, one person went up, another person went up simultaneously, and then I was like, well, I'll go for the third. And so, being the third person, and I'm kind of, I wouldn't say, I'm definitely not remedial, but when it comes to understanding certain things or like comprehending, I want to make sure I get it because that was, I think, in high school. And I mean, not high school, but in education, comprehension was always like something I seemed to have struggled with. And maybe I didn't really struggle with it. Maybe it's just perception, and I perceive things differently. But in the education system, you have to perceive it the way they tell you to. And so, I'm not like, I wouldn't say perceive the sky as yellow, or let's say some other random color when it's blue, or when it might be pink and purple and a mix of magenta and those colors because of the sunset. Like there's a difference between truth and you reading a story that is not that doesn't it's not about facts, but it's like I don't know, some things are so weird like that. But anyway, I just wanted to make sure that I understood what the prompt was really asking, because there was a visual. We were asked to close our eyes, and the presenter was feeding a visual of some things. And honestly, I can't even regurgitate what was being asked of us because I don't know. I was so confused by it, and not in a negative way, but I was so confused because I was like, Lord, half of the time, what I do know, I felt in that moment, I was like, God, I don't have a negative feeling. And I feel like this prompt is kind of like focusing on, um, I remember one thing, maybe not during the prompt, but it was like kind of after, what is your Egypt? And I know that a lot of us as human beings, we have this thing that we run back to because it's familiar, because it's safe. You think about the servant and the talents, right? The one who had the one talent, he went and buried it, which was a common practice back then. So it wasn't just fear, it was familiarity that you buried it because thieves were prominent in some of these places. And so hiding your treasure was not this, it was a fearful thing, but it was a smart and tactical thing, right? Let's say there was a war and you hid it so that way you could come back and get it later, or again thieves or whatever, right? And so there's a mix of as to why the man did it, but for the most part he was afraid. He was afraid, and that is unveiled when he says to the master, I know that you are a hard man who, you know blah 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 didn't work and all for this stuff or whatever, right? And so the insinuations are there, but um we're being asked about our Egypt, and I really cannot remember the prompt even now, but as I was speaking, I felt very all over the place because again, I can't when it comes to, do you have this lack of trust in God? I feel like people will make you feel bad when you say no. And they make you feel like, oh, you're just being overly spiritual because everybody has that moment. I'm not saying that I don't have that moment, but I think having that moment or letting that moment have you is two different things, right? Um, you know, there are moments where I recognize I waver, but the funny fact about it is I can easily come back just as quickly as I got out. And I don't know, it's one of those hard things because I believe, right? I told them, about my experience, and that's what it reminded me, the prompt. As I asked her to recap the prompt, because being the third person giving your answer is hard to remember, what you're responding to. So I asked for a recap, you know, and really as you're sitting there thinking about, you know, this thing that may not happen or whatever the case might be, I was brought back in my spirit to the place where I started my garden, or like 2 years in, because I remember I would go out and check the seed. Like, I mean, genuinely, I probably checked one seed like 10 times a day, and I had just planted the seed. And that to me was revelatory to the mere fact of like, you have to, there's a lot that can be unveiled in that. But simply, I think one of the main, how would you say, surface level things to take from it is what you plant today, you're not going to see and reap the harvest of tomorrow. Now, the crazy thing about the reality that we're in is you could post a video, you could post a picture, you could do a sermon and it blow up. So it's not a one size fits all kind of thing. But in this case, and in some cases, in most cases, not maybe not most, but in a lot of cases, it might take some time. And I think that's the whole point of it. If it takes time, are you gonna stick with it? Are you gonna trust? Are you gonna keep showing up? Are you gonna have the courage to steward and not obsess, right? Are you going to stay present here so that everything that you're doing, you can do in joy and gladness and peace and in rest, but also knowing that it will feed the vision, that every step that you take today will lead to your tomorrow. And so honestly, that was something that came to me because again, with prompts and especially like when it comes to what do you feel in this regards to like these fearful things because and maybe I'm misunderstanding, but from what I'm going off my emotion right now because I can't remember the prompt, but from what I felt emotionally, it was trying to not incite fear, but it was one of those prompts that kind of it could make you question or wonder about your in between. And I would say this, right? I remember growing up and I would ask God, I was like, God, I want to know like what is the in between, because you oftentimes see, people when they make it, but you don't see the days where nothing is happening. You don't see the days where it's like, okay, well, I go to sleep and I do it over again tomorrow. And that compounds. You don't get to see that. But I think that that is where most people spend a good chunk of their life is in the in between. And that is where the discipline, the tenacity, all of the good stuff is required. And it's like that is what we need to see. We need to, I guess, really invest ourselves in and understanding that a person may have done this for 5 years before you actually saw it, right? They may have done this and done that, invested here and invested there. And the next thing you know, boom, again, and maybe I didn't say it in the last or even now, but I've been gardening for 4 years and it seems like every year there has been some level of expansion and growth. And so to me, I feel favor, I feel grace around that. But there's so much that I have learned from gardening, but definitely being present, being one of them, being present, being one of them, because I'll say this and then I'll wrap it up. Um, I want a bigger garden. I want a bigger plot of land so that I can do more. So again, going back to it, I could be a aid, a source of food security, right, for my community, right? And so when you get so caught up in your future that you forsake your present, right? And sometimes you can show up physically, you can do all the work, you can steward, but I think being present is about being present in your fullness, not just in bits and pieces, being present in every aspect of your being. And so when your mind is not there, but yet you are, I feel like you're doing yourself a disservice because you're not enjoying the moment. It's not saying forsake or forget about the vision or, not have an expectation. But at the end of the day, don't be so there that you're stressing yourself out because you won't stay here and you won't love here. And you're don't be the person that despises the days of small beginnings. You know, you don't want to strive for it. You want to put in some initiative. And again, that's one of the words that I'm valuing right now, initiative, but I'm also valuing capacity and knowing, obedience and trusting obedience and so much, but again, the reason I brought that up was because I was feeling so concerned about what I said, and someone recorded it, and I want to go back and watch it because I don't know. I guess I was being very self conscious, but it seemed as if though what I said, it set a catalyst because one person, they said, regarding what you were talking about. And then because of that person said what they said, and they revealed their testimony and how God has been really, I mean, just doing things because of their trusting faith, right? And one of the words, I guess, we were asked to describe what we felt. I said courage. I guess if you had to put it into something, because one person said learning, the other person said shame, and I had courage. I mean, but then again, going back to the person, after we did our presentation or did that, one person mentioned trust and faith, trust, yeah, and how my story just made them um want to I don't know, it just it had this ripple effect because she pointed out something I said, and then she had a moment and it just kind of shifted the atmosphere. And then another person said it was something they prayed for, and I forget, but they said something about strength. And so then it was another person that spoke, and they piggybacked off of what she said, and it was regarding waiting. And then because of that, what someone else prayed for was answered because of a simple word. And so really, you never know, even when something happens, it's not supposed to be us. And that's why I'm glad I'm not the most profound person. I'm not saying I'm stupid, but I do know a little something, and I do believe that God has blessed me, but I'm human. But I do realize and recognize oftentimes God blesses me to be a part of moments that I don't even recognize, but it is because it's just my natural being. It is who I am that things just begin to happen, and it's because of honesty. Like, I could sit there and lie and say, I've, again, the prompt was emotionally invoking, like, you should feel this way, but I feel that way. And so I stuck with what I felt that way, right? And it seemed to have did its job because the whole room began to, it was like we went from, and this is not to, I think we don't want to act as if though we don't have issues or we don't have worries, right? Because even the presenter today, we've had conversations before where I feel overwhelmed, and I've told her this, but even in my overwhelm, I trust God. Even in a lot of this stuff, like, I feel like I have seen God. And so I don't know, which is okay. I tell God oftentimes I don't know, but I don't have to know everything. I don't have to know everything. I don't want to. I think it's folly to know everything and want to know everything and be seeking out all the answers. Just enjoy your life. Just live. But I mean, yeah, like, I was a little self-conscious about that, but to me, even this is the same person, that kind of confirmed to me that God does speak to me. God does use me. And sometimes you have to be reminded of that. I'm not new to God using me. One of my favorite examples to share, I'm going over time, but one of my favorite examples is when I was younger and there was a song. I didn't really like Christian rap, but it was I'ma Stay Saved. And so I ended up learning that song, and there was the kids at the church that I was attending, we were performing and we were having, I don't think it was a talent show, but we had some kind of thing like that. And there was a guy who, we weren't really on friend term. We honestly were enemies in my opinion, but he performed that song, and um he forgot the words, and so I knew some of the words, and I believe God was prepping me to mend something that the enemy was trying to cause confusion in the midst of. And so I waited so that I could give him the dignity to remember if he could. But then when I saw he couldn't, I went up and I helped. I stood by him and was there with him, you know, for solidarity. And that right there, that was one of the very first moments where I understood that in the simple thing, I may not understand my desires. I may not understand why I did what I did, but God is going to use it. And sadly, some things are be worse than others because learning a song that wasn't really bad or good, but it played its role. It had its purpose. And even with me giving the banana pepper plant, it played its role and it has its purpose. And even as the Bible study, unfolded, it seems like God is doing something. And, I'm just glad that I was able to be a part of it because, again, she even, confirmed to me that, well, either way, I'm glad God is doing what God is doing. But I mean, yeah, I was a little nervous. Not nervous, but I need to work on my speaking. I need to work on definitely telling my story because I don't know, I think that's a big part of why I'm doing this right now is to perfect my story, and be able to tell it fluidly because it's not about being perfect because I know that people can relate through the ums and the hiccups and the stuttering, and the reality of the delivery. But at the same time, I want to be able to get the good parts out or get and trust that God will, in whichever way necessary, get the message across that needs to be projected or conveyed that day or that moment. Right. And so, I don't know. I still want to go back and listen to it because I just feel like a lot of what I was saying was all over the place because I was very fixated on, enjoying your moment, enjoying the moment, right? And, one thing I also remember was like, you don't want to overwater the plant because you can kill it. You can kill a plant when you suffocate it. And so that right there, there's just a lot that comes from it. But I've learned to trust the process and actually keep showing up and take care of these plants, take care of what God has given to me, which is why I can see why someone would come up with trusting, obedient, trusting faith, because at the end of the day, you plant a seed, you trust that you don't just do nothing, but you trust that it's going to come up, that what it was designed to do will take place. And so you step back and you live. You go live, but yet the next morning you go out and you look and you check and you make sure, and if you need to water, you water. You do the necessary things because that's faithful stewardship, but you don't obsess because that is a lack, that is doubt, that is a lack of trust. And so I need to wrap this up because I've definitely gone on longer than I would like to. But I'm just up and there was those two things just on my mind, people being ridiculous and then uh yeah, me probably being self-conscious, but regardless, I need to just trust that God did what he needed to do and got the glory out of the situation. So remember to stay positive. Keep that with you. Spread it wherever you go. My name is, I'm about to say Blue. That's my gamer name. My name is Stefan. If you didn't know, with all that being said, love yourselves and love others. I think my morning voice has activated. I think that's what's happened. I haven't gone to sleep, so morning voice kicked in because it's a little raspy. But yeah. I mean, I feel like my voice is sultry enough sometimes already. Maybe not. But definitely my voice has changed. Oh my gosh. I can hear it. It's heavy. It's heavy. Oh Lord. Well, yeah, I'm out. Love you. I mean it.